available, so she won't be here. Any other changes to the agenda? All right. Comments from the public? Did we get anyone, Kathy?
No, we did not.
Okay. How about the minutes from August 6th? Can I have somebody move that? Henry? Dan seconds. Any comments or questions about the minutes? All right. We'll go ahead and have a roll call vote. Dan?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
And I don't think Mike Sigler is here yet, but I am a yes. So that's 4. All right. All right, so next we have County Clerk. I don't see Maureen.
Alana's here from the County Clerk's
Okay.
office.
Alana is. All right, then Alana, if you're there, you are up first with our resolution. Alana, are you in there somewhere? All right, well, we'll come back, I guess. Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, why don't I get somebody to move this and then you can tell us about it.
Okay.
All right, Rich moves it. A second, Dan seconds. All right, thank you, Alana, for being here. And if you want to tell us about this, that would be great.
Yeah, Maureen had submitted a resolution to adopt the new New York State Archives Records Retention and Disposition Schedule. New York State just changed it where they're incorporating all of the schedules into one, with the exception of the Board of Elections one. And we need to adopt that in order to move forward with the records.
All right. Any questions about this? Henry?
Yeah, Alana, when was this passed?
They just rolled out the webinars last week, and they're looking for everyone to adopt it by the 1st of the year. So
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right. Let's go ahead and vote then. Dan?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here. That was easy enough.
Yep.
I should have said at the beginning also, we have a bunch of things on the agenda, but I need to finish up by 3:30 if we go that long, because I need to go over to the HR director interviews. So we'll have to stop at 3:30 if we get that far. All right, moving on to Board of Elections. Resolution acceptance of Help America Vote CARES Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act funding and budget adjustment. Can I get somebody move that? Henry. Rich seconds. And Steve, you want to tell us about this one?
Well, Tamara is here and she's going to talk to you about it.
Okay, great.
So for the, this last election was very costly to us with extra mailings and that sort of thing. So we were able to use, submit funding back to the state to the CARES, have a CARES grant. So we received reimbursements and we put it into, in the state aid and the federal aid things, and we needed to spread that money back out as a budget adjustment into the other accounts that were depleted due to the expenses from the COVID election we had.
Right. All right, Kathy?
I sent out a revised copy of this resolution this morning. There's also going to be a correction to the last whereas, the dollar amount.
Okay,
It'll
did
be-
folks get that email earlier from Kathy? Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I'm
So
sure I
that-
got it. I didn't see it though. What are the changes to the dollar figures?
The dollar amount in the last whereas is being changed to $119,308.53. And then there is just some corrections made to the budget adjustment from what went out in the agenda packet.
To reflect that.
Correct.
Went from 120 to 119 something.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you, Kathy, for clarifying. Other questions about this? Henry?
Yes. We got the aid for the primary. Are we looking to get any aid for the general election?
Currently, no. Currently, no. I mean, there's a talk, but no action on the second CARES grant from the federal government. But until that comes through, the answer is no.
And the state's not providing any additional aid either?
No.
Okay. I assume the aid was also only for materials and not for staffing?
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about this? Ann Corman?
Thanks. It was a question not exactly about this. I just had something to ask Steve before they were
All right.
done.
Sure, let us vote on this and then we can put Steve on the spot with other questions. All right, anything else about this resolution? Doesn't look like it. All right, let's go ahead and vote. Henry,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes,
and I am a yes, so that passes. Thank you. All right, Steve, if you have a minute, we'll throw a couple more questions at you. Ann, go ahead.
Thank you, Amanda. So Steve, the question I had was a constituent told me that they were trying to sign up to be a poll worker, and I'm assuming this is for the actual general election day, November 3rd, that they said that they had to sign up to work from 5 in the morning until 9 at night, and they couldn't do like a half a shift. And I'm just wondering if you could clarify that.
Well, generally, we because we have so few poll workers, we do have to, the ones we do have to generally work a full day, the full 16 hours. If we have extra poll workers available, we'll then begin to look at possibly splitting up shifts. And I would tell the constituent that if she's interested in a half shift, she ought to apply and specify that she can only work a half shift, and ideally tell us which part of the day that she can work, the first half or the second half. And there's a possibility. I mean, we're getting tremendous response to all the different organizations that are pushing to have people become poll workers. Whether it turns out to be adequate once we get to November 3rd, we still have a couple months before to have that all shake out.
Okay, thank you. And so as far as the early voting times, I believe are not 16 hours, so that would be easier for folks.
Yeah,
conceivably?
generally we use our employees to work the early voting.
your employees. Okay, so not getting outside employees.
Generally not, no.
Okay, because I can just see that if we're asking people to work 16 hours, that could turn away a lot of people.
Well, I forewarned them all, and I can't believe it. It's hard to believe how many have come forward, even when they've been forewarned.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right, I'll
Let's
still
see
keep. All right, I'll still keep putting the word out then. Thank you.
All right,
That'd be good.
great, thank you. Henry, another question?
Yes. Steve, I was wondering in terms of your expenses and everything else, will you be coming back to the legislature to ask for more funding for the general election?
Hard to say, but I would say probably. But I couldn't tell you how much. And I mean, getting that reimbursement from the federal government was a big help. Or I'm sorry, from the CARES grant. But you know, we've got a lot of people wanting absentee ballots, and that's a real expensive method of voting. You know.
Yeah. Did I see also yesterday that the governor announced that that there was a website to request an absentee ballot?
A portal, yes.
Yeah, portal.
And
Yeah,
I
'cause
strongly urge it. Say again?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, the portal is, anybody that has access to the internet can apply for an absentee ballot through the portal. And frankly, if the person is bound and determined that they want to vote by absentee, that, from our standpoint, is the preferred method of applying, because there's no paper involved, and they get confirmation that they've they've got a ballot coming, and it's just a lot easier it takes a lot less time for us to enter the data into our system, and so from that standpoint, we're big advocates here of the portal after having used it for a few days.
Okay. Yes, I used it last night. It was quite easy. And I also put an email out to the listservs saying to use it, but I'll do it again since it's your preferred method.
Keep doing it, because it really is quite good.
Great.
Okay.
I had one question for you, Steve. I had someone ask about possibly having outdoor voting spaces that would be safer than indoor for voting. Is that something anyone had talked about or thought about at all?
No, not really. I mean, it just would involve dealing with the elements, the weather, and otherwise putting up tents in every area. And I just think it's
Electricity.
electricity for the voting machines and everything. I mean,
Right.
it's pretty much a non-starter, I would think.
Right. Yeah, it would be a whole different undertaking of trying to set up a space, but just throwing it out there.
I'd like to go on the record as being totally in favor of al fresco voting.
Right, put that in the minutes.
Touche.
All right, thank you so much, Steve, for being here.
One other thing.
One more question? Okay, Henry?
Yeah. When is the mail slot going to be up, Steve? Because that's a big announcement, right?
Yeah, facilities have said that they're going to put a mail slot in our front door. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do it, but when they actually have it there, we'll make an announcement. I don't want to, have people showing up and not having any place to put anything. So we'll wait and see when that happens. They say it'll happen in a couple.
Awesome. You'll let us know, I'm sure.
Yes, I will.
All right.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Hey, you're welcome. Take care.
All right. We're going to move on to an update from Greg Potter and Lauren Cottrell from our IT department. Thank you both for being here.
Our pleasure.
Yes.
Good afternoon. So I'm not sure, Amanda, how you would like to direct this. Lauren and I met and we've organized about a document that has about 10 points on it of items that we're focusing on right now, but I wasn't sure if you wanted to lead off or anyone on the committee with any specific questions before we got into that. And there's probably going to be some overlap on those topics.
No, why don't you guys go ahead and tell us all the wonderful things you're doing, and then folks can ask questions.
Sounds good. So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to start at the top of this, and Lauren and I, again, we met, we kind of came up with 10 things that are currently occupying the most of our attention or our staff's attention. And so I'm just going to start at the top and run through these one by one, and then I'll leave it open to any questions or discussion after each topic. How does that sound?
Great, thank you.
Okay. So obviously the first one is COVID-19. As you probably all are aware, COVID-19 has been a huge effort in the world of IT, not only in conducting and helping out with the transformation for virtual meetings, but in all of the remote workforce that we have going on in the county and supporting those individuals remotely. So that's been a huge shift for us, but one that we've taken on and it's gone really well. As a result of that, we've had to increase our bandwidth, basically doubling it for in and out of the county. We've put a lot of our time and attention in supporting the Emergency Operations Center and advancing and supporting technology as we shift to that location for the EOC. I mentioned virtual meetings. We've made quite a bit of progress in the use of Microsoft Teams, which is a component of our Microsoft Office 365 suite that's being used heavily across the county within work groups, within departments now, which provides an alternative to Zoom, which has no cost to the department. We've implemented a lot of technology in existing conference rooms, like the screen in front of the legislative chambers conference table. We've done something similar in most of the conference rooms around the county now. So virtual meetings can be held within those spaces with video cameras and microphones, along with large monitors. A huge move to supporting telehealth and in the mental health and public health departments. Contract tracing software, we're working on a lot of that going on right now in supporting that. There's been some conversations about advancing that this morning. Lots of adjustments and changes in HR payroll to add new codes and leave balances or manage the balances for COVID-19 related efforts at the state and federal level, and along with the local stuff for emergency leave, and the expansion of soft phones, which is a type of phone that allows employees, particularly in ITS, to answer office phones through their computers while they're remote at home. So those are just examples of some pretty significant advances that we've done in technology to support COVID-19. They're all great things, and I think they're all examples of things that are here to stay. Just because we did them for COVID-19 probably means that they're going to be here forever. But one positive thing I can say is that we did them quickly to support the organization, and they all went pretty well. Lauren, I don't know if you want to jump in and add any of the detail on any of those topics or adding anything else to that list.
No, I would say conference room equipment, I think we're up to almost a dozen of the conference rooms around the county that are fully outfitted with the same technology as the legislature, which I think you've all seen for remote meetings. EOC just recently got 2 brand new large monitors and setups there, which is making life easier for them, Frank, Jason, Dominic, etc. to be able to have multiple video meetings at the same time in both locations. So other than that, yeah, I've been working, got a few departments as part of the EOC planning team that are under my wing to keep track of, to make sure that if there's any problems, that we work through them. I am part of the EOC team as a whole, which has been good. We kind of cut off any problems or, hear about them, from the beginning and try to get on them. So it's been pretty good for us to be connected at that level. And I think it's been working well.
Great. Do you want any questions about this now, or do you want to keep going?
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense to address each one of these because they're all a little bit different. And then we could go back to them if we need to at the end of the presentation.
Okay, questions about COVID response? Anyone? Henry?
Yes, you said that you're using, most people using Microsoft Teams as opposed to Zoom?
The internal, the use of Teams between internal staff has many advantages to Zoom. So Teams has the video component built into Office 365, but it doesn't work as well with external users outside of our tompkins-co.org domain. So we advocate using Teams internally as opposed to buying more Zoom licenses. And a lot of departments have picked up and taken advantage of that opportunity. So it's built into their license already and available to them as they use it.
And I'll just add that Teams is more of a collaboration software. So the video component is just one piece of it. So for projects or particular groups like the EOC, we have a couple different teams for the EOC. People that have started using it, like myself, I like it. It's got a nice chat feature. So you can basically, quick chats during the day just to get things done. So it's starting to gain some traction around the county.
Cool, sounds good.
And do you have an idea of how we're going to, once we come back in the open meetings law, how are we going to do that with also being virtual at the same time?
Well, we've had some discussions about that, yes. And I think that that Kathy may have sent something out maybe to a smaller group this morning on the potential of the laws changing. Is that correct, Kathy?
No, that's a separate issue.
Okay.
No, the governor has to re-up the exemption by tomorrow to keep us going.
Yeah. So basically, Henry, we've already had this discussion internally. If we end up with advancing or we have more people showing up in person for those public meetings that can fit around the conference room table in the ledge chambers, then we're going to have to make some technology adjustments to the ledge chambers. And that's going to take some time to work through.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Great. Why don't you guys go ahead with the next one?
I'm going to pass this one off, the next two off to Lauren because he's taking the lead with the Board of Elections.
Sure. So as you all know, there's a little bit going on in elections these days. And I'll just give a quick update. Back about a year and a half ago, we had a company called Grant Thornton come in and do a cybersecurity assessment based upon elections. It took us about a year to actually get that report back, and then the state actually put money towards a remediation plan. The state hired a company called NICETech, which I worked with on a remediation plan for probably the last couple months, and basically going through, policies, procedures, anything that maybe outdated hardware, lots of things in the report. So we worked up a remediation plan, which included solutions that money was tied to that. So we just found out yesterday the plan was accepted, and so we can potentially start sending invoices and getting some reimbursements. It was NICE was great to work with. It really was, the focus was Board of Election, but there are a lot of things that come from State Board of Elections, and the money coming down from there that helps the overall county. Things like intrusion detection systems, that's probably the biggest one that that they paid for, we have in place. Basically, intrusion detection system allows Greg and I to get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning if somebody's trying to break into the network. Seems to always happen at 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, but so there's a lot going on. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of policies and procedures to write, incident response plans, but we have a plan. We have dates. Elections was good to work with in this project, and we've got a lot to do in the next couple months before the election.
Yeah, I'm just going to add on. This is the BOE cybersecurity project is an effort that's going across all across New York State. So every county is doing something similar in scope, and Lauren has been instrumental across the state in Tompkins County being one of the preliminary counties to pilot this effort as we go forward. So he's been involved in some of the rollout and implementation, how that happens at the county level. This becomes a little bit complicated for counties because BOE as a department can't be stripped out or separated from the rest of county government. So they started with the implication that we need to improve cybersecurity for BOE, but really the IT directors across the state said, well, we can't do that without improving security for the rest of the county at the same time. And so that's been the message, and that's where they're proceeding.
And did I understand?
Sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
Well, just did I understand that you started this like before COVID, right?
Yeah.
It's been going on for a while. So that's good. You were already working on it.
No. Yep.
And I have been lucky to be invited on some of the state Board of Election focus groups representing the counties, and the treasurer of the IT Directors Association for New York State. So I think that helped me get in on some of these focus groups.
Great, that's great. Any questions about the BOE process from anyone? I can't see everyone, so if you put your little blue hand up, then I can see it. All right, I don't see anything. Go ahead, guys.
So the next one is just again on the Board of Elections. The handshell location up until a few months ago was kind of its own little island as far as technology. They were having to take laptops there and copy files from the main network, and it was pretty. It wasn't very efficient. So recently we've gotten an internet connection at the handshell location, which allows them to update their 100+ poll pads. They're actually iPads that need iOS updates, and then the actual poll software before every election. So that allows them to do all that there instead of lugging all of those down to the local Board of Election downtown. And I also have them VPNing in for any software that they need, any Excel files, any of their data. So that's been pretty successful. I just Ariel from our office and I went there last week just to kind of put the finishing touches on things. And I hadn't been there in a while, so I got the tour. So kind of ready to support them if they need anything, come this upcoming election.
Great. Questions about that? I don't see any. All right.
Okay, I'll take the next one. As starting in this year of 2020, we've got a 5-year capital equipment replacement plan. The first year of that plan resulted or is resulting in the replacement of all of the closet network switches, the upgrade or replacement of the core network switch in the Uptown Data Center, which is in the emergency response department, and the replacement of 2 appliances which manage and load balance all the internet traffic to and from the county's network. So we're actively rolling out that equipment, and as well as some more storage capacity on the network to support everything that we do, which is a NetApp device. So that gets a little bit further in the weeds, but there's probably $250,000 in network infrastructure equipment updates that are happening this year. That is falling behind on schedule because of COVID-19 and some of the vacancies and retirements that we have gone through in ITS department that we'll talk about in a second, but it's incrementally moving forward. Nothing like of a crisis. This is all advanced work for aging equipment that has to be replaced eventually.
All right. Well, that makes sense. Questions? And Mike Sigler is with us now, so that's good. Jump in if you have questions, Mike.
I will, thanks.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, the next one is a biggie. This is the replacement of the HR payroll system for the county. And I'm gonna, the company's name is Kronos, but they've recently merged with another company, and now they're known as UKG. So if you hear that in the future, you'll know that's the same thing as Kronos. So there's 4 pieces to this project. The first one is Telestaff, which is the scheduling software for the sheriff's department. Because they work 24/7 within 3 different shifts and they bid for their shifts, their time is managed a little bit differently because it's a little bit more, it's much more complicated. And there are rules around their shifts and the bidding for times that are 6 months out that are much more, that are different in process in data than the rest of the county. So the sheriff's department has transitioned from entirely paper to Telestaff. And we have also gone live with Telestaff and the time and labor system, which I'll talk about in a second. And we're on our 3rd payroll process without too much complication. It was a huge lift. We did it during COVID-19. It was a big challenge, but I'm glad we did it. We pushed through it, and we're making adjustments now to improve what we've done. We've got an active punch list of about 50 items that Drew and his crew and HR is working through now with us. And I'll pass it off to Drew. Anything you want to add to that from your perspective?
I would just echo everything that Greg has said, that, you know, it has gone fairly smoothly for such a major conversion. We've moved from spending several hours on paper timesheets to now processing electronically. As Greg mentioned, we're working through a punch list of a number of items to get that more efficient. We're learning the process as we go, but knock on wood, I think everybody's been paid, pretty much paid right. Everybody's been paid on time, which is more important. And, you know, I think it's going well.
I hope people are being paid. That's good.
Yeah, no, I woke up the first Thursday morning and checked my bank account at 4:30 a.m. just to make sure. So I don't know if I slept at night. Time and labor is really the electronic timekeeping system that replaced the previous system called TimeForce. So in addition, it has integrated all the blue collar employees from paper to electronic time cards. So everyone in the county, as well as the dispatch center. So as a result of those telestaff and time and labor or workforce ready system, everyone in the county is now on an electronic time card. Before it was split between electronic and paper. Workforce ready or time and labor has a great deal more functionality for the employees. So it integrates electronic time clocks for the blue collar employees out at Bostwick Road. It has a mobile app that people can access their time cards or their benefits information or their fringe accruals and have that live for them. So in addition, it opens up in the future the ability for us to expand on employee self-service through the HR side of things. So the last two pieces, HR and payroll, are still in a system that is known as Infor, and that would be the next two modules or pieces that we migrate from Infor to Kronos, and that is scheduled for the end of the first quarter in 2021. So that is all the HR module is all the details about benefits, activities for employees, position control. Payroll actually does the calculations from the workforce ready system into payroll about how people get paid and where the money gets distributed. So they're a little bit different. But in the future, when we get done with this, everything that we talk about here will be in one piece of software, all integrated, which is a big deal. And it avoids a lot of the complications between what is the most accurate source of data for people to rely on in the future.
Interesting. Questions about this from anyone? It sounds like a huge lift.
Yeah, I assume,
Henry?
I assume, Drew, that this saves lots of time.
Our goal is that it will, as Greg mentioned, the payroll process is still on a system called Infor. Once we get that remoted in, it should streamline things. The payroll process is basically, I mean, tough to detail it, but high level 30 steps that you have to do. And I've experienced a half dozen different payroll systems, and they're all similar. So as Greg mentioned, it takes the time and labor piece and the HR piece, mashes them together, and comes out with a paycheck. So that process right now involves transition of data, which will be eliminated, which will save us some of that time. It should also eliminate some of the questions, because right now it might be, you know, somebody may be in one position in one system, but they're transitioning to another one and that system's updated. So it does get rid of some of that area. So ideally it'll be a better product for employees, I think, at the end, is the real goal and the real outcome.
Great.
Two other quick things, Amanda, on this project.
Okay.
One is that within this project, we've migrated already telestaff and time and labor workforce ready stuff to the cloud. So it's hosted by Kronos as a SaaS. So which is different than what we used to do. We used to do everything that was really highly customized in our data center, and there was a significant reliance on ITS to do little details or little changes. So this moves us in a direction where both HR and finance could go directly to the company or do it themselves as an alternative to exclusively relying on ITS to respond to something.
Rich, did you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to say, well done on this. I've gone through 2 payroll conversions at the company I was at, and they didn't go well. And it's remarkable, the ripple effect of a bad transition. So handling it well is really an accomplishment. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to explain the level of detail you have to get right in a project like this, down to coding in a system that maybe only the payroll clerks in IT currently understand. It really is complicated, and particularly in our world, since we're dealing with 6 different configurations in the same system for all the bargaining units. And the terminology of the language is different for each one. And so we have to accommodate all the particular aspects of the negotiated language by contract into the system. So, and 3 people from my staff in particular that need to have really have put a lot of time and effort are Kim Moore, Katie Prince, and Angie White, who previously retired and came back to work just for this project to help us out.
Wow.
So
great. Well, thank you to them. All right, we should move on to the next one.
Lauren, I'll let you take over this one.
So we're upgrading. We have 4 DVRs, older DVRs around the county that we are consolidating into 2 newer DVRs in our data center. So it's a matter of moving cameras being recorded off of older DVR to the newer DVRs and rolling out the new software to anybody that needs access to it. We're probably a little over 90% complete. Project's going well, working with facilities, but it's been a heavy lift. We've got probably close to 100 cameras that are on the network at this point. So, but we're almost done.
All right, questions on that? Nope, doesn't look like it. All right.
Okay. The next project is the website migration, which started with GEO last year, I think it was, or 2 years ago, I can't remember anymore. But the end result is that we are moving from what is known as Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 for a number of reasons. We've completed everything except for those sections of the website that you see before you: planning, health, assessment, board of elections, the homepage and the secondary homepages. And we have a different direction that we're likely to take for the intranet. So, and we're working now with Dominic on communications to fine tune the county's website for, his public presentation of information and where that's going. So this has been a great project to work on actually during COVID-19 because we can do a lot of this work remotely, and people or departments that were looking on projects they could take on remotely were willing to jump into this migration project with their staff. So
right. So in terms of Dominic and the communications piece, is there, I can't remember what we had talked about putting news out or, updates. Is that going to be on the homepage, or what does that look like? Yeah,
I think what's likely to happen, Amanda, is that the homepage design that we initially presented and came up with, Dominic is been introduced and met the company that hosts our application and supports it. And he's going back to them and doing some tweaks and changes to that structure to meet his needs. And okay. My guess is those are going to be a little bit more elaborate than what we came up with. Maybe not elaborate is not the right word, but he's going to probably focus on that. But in particular, they're trying to deal with the COVID-19 information since it's been buried under the health department page and try to figure out a way to get it right. Redefined.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, press releases and all that, there's a lot of that. So having it accessible as possible. Henry?
Yes. When do you think you'll be finished with the migration?
On our side, we'll be working on the Board of Elections and Assessment Department, but in the planning, but the health department and the homepage and probably the intranet are really based on Dominic's schedule. My guess is that we're hesitant to touch the BOE until after the elections because of everything going on there. Planning department is just really large. There's a lot of data and information out there, and so that one is a little bit different. We'll probably take on the assessment department next. That'll probably be done within 2 weeks, and then we'll, I would say our share of the work would be done within a month.
All right. Other questions about the website? All right, great. Well, thanks, continued thanks for working on that.
Okay, the next thing is just a quick overview of current, internal ITS departmental items. So just to let you all know that we're currently down by two FTEs. Jason recently gave us approval to fill one of the vacancies, but both those FTEs are out there as OTRs in the 12% reduction scenario for 2021. So it presents a bit of a quandary for us to begin to fill a vacancy since that position is out there possibly as an OTR in 2021. So we're discussing with him how to approach that. But he understands the need to fill the vacancies. And what's happening in the department is that the vacancies, what we're having to do is floating up to our network administrator, who should be working on the installation of the equipment sitting in the hallway. So that's been put on pause because he's now dealing with daily work orders that are coming through. So everything has been shifted around. We've had 2 recent retirements as well. So we've adjusted to that and planned for that accordingly. So we're doing pretty well. There's a lot of discussion about next year and the consolidation of GIS. There's a few other departments that have GIS positions or projects under the department. So we're talking about centralizing all the GIS initiatives in Tompkins County under IT. So that's happening as well. Where COVID-19 in particular has led to a lot of additional effort in account management, people coming and going from the county, going out on furloughs. So every time somebody starts the county or leaves the county, there's a lot that we have to do on the back end for accounts in various systems. And our process has improved quite a bit. But it's a lot of work and it occupies a lot of our time, particularly in COVID-19. I think things are settling down now. We've adjusted to telework in the Department of ITS. At the start of COVID-19, we gave ourselves the challenge of all working remotely at the start. And so we thought if we can, if we can figure it out for ourselves, then we can better help those departments that are going to be in the same situation. So everyone scattered and left the office space and worked remotely. And that went really well for us. We've since come back, maybe 5 staff have come back. We started with a couple and then we've gotten it up to 5, but it's kind of balanced out, and our department is a smaller one for those that prefer to work on the office versus those who prefer to work from home. And that's gone pretty well for us. So we really actually have grown to appreciate it. And those that do work from home are accomplishing quite a bit, more so than being in the office, to be honest with you.
Great.
And I would just add that we have staff meetings twice a week, virtually, which keeps us connected and yeah, we're getting stuff done.
Yeah, it's going well for us. So we're now trying to balance off, all the effort that we put and the attention we've put in for the past 6 months, and trying to make sure that we're supporting each other for vacation schedules. So I've got 2 people out on vacation for a couple of weeks right now, and so we have some open discussions and really are working on people to try to take a break now if they can. So that's an ongoing active discussion amongst the ITS staff. And then of course, the 2021 budget for us.
Yeah. That's a thing, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, just to let you know, a 12% cut for us means 2 positions plus some other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how we presented it. And it was easier to do it that way at the start of the budget conversation because those positions were vacant. And it was easier to keep the staff morale and have an open discussion about where we're going as a department based on those budget challenges with that in mind.
Right. Yeah. Questions about this? Although maybe don't ask your budget questions because we're going to have lots of time for that.
Yeah, right. And it may change for us too by the time the more detailed discussions happen with Jason and us. He may change the strategy for OTRs for us completely. So
yeah.
Lauren, the next one I'm gonna pass over to you because you're spending more time on training than I am.
Sure. So training is taking a whole new approach lately. We were Jesse Sputis, myself, and Mark from the health department we were doing new employee orientations twice a month or every 2 weeks. So any new employees, we would get them through health and safety, cyber, HIPAA training, compliance training. And now that we're really not meeting in person anymore, we're kind of taking that virtually, kind of recording our trainings, making them available to new hires. Sexual harassment, we changed the platform to the same platform that we're using for cybersecurity, a company called KnowBe4. So we'll be sending out probably next week, hopefully, our sexual harassment training for the year, which will also include in that same training campaign, a cyber initiative. It was last year that I made it around to most of the departments and came in on a staff meeting and, spent half hour, 45 minutes with my little show of the new cyber issues and things to look for. But obviously with us not meeting in person anymore, we're going to change that approach. We are working on putting together we've created a countywide team, Microsoft team that is for trainings. We may change that approach and put a SharePoint on it, but right now it's going to be a repository for things like Kronos training and maybe cyber training and anything else that we want to put there. We also are, shouldn't tell you all this right now, but we're actively in a phishing campaign at the moment. So there's some emails going out. I'm hoping that I think it's going to end tomorrow. And we'll see where we come in. Right now, we're not doing too bad. We're about 3/4 of the way through it. Out of the 550 people that have county email, we've delivered messages to about 370, and we have a percentage that clicked. But right now, it's pretty good comparatively to the phishing campaigns that we've done in the past. So I'm pretty happy about that. Hopefully the training that we have been doing is working and people are getting a little bit more savvy about clicking on things that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Kronos UKG is just a little bit is an example of what we're building in SharePoint. So it's a focused site just for all of the training related to the Kronos project that everyone can go to in one location and one page. And so we're linking or posting the videos directly there. And we've shifted our attention in the approach that we take for training. And we're actually using Zoom to record our, some training approaches using a shared screen. and then posting them on the SharePoint. Instead of people reading stuff, they just go and watch a video now. So, and it's specific now to the users of Tompkins County within the Kronos environment instead of generic company training materials.
Great. Any questions about that? Don't think so. All right. Last one here.
All right. Just in the world of remote workforce, IT security becomes much more important and something that we're really paying attention to. So we're moving in a number of directions to improve that as part of the BOE project or stuff that we have ongoing. The first one is multi-factor authentication. So as you log into the county network or email, you're likely to be directed to multi-factor authentication in the future. So there's instead of just a password, it's going to send a message to your cell phone. You're probably aware of, or use that for your bank accounts, something like that. So we're moving in that direction, or have done so already for certain things, but we're likely to roll out a common solution for that. We're improving the way that we manage the firewall as items are identified globally. We're locking them down, or hope to lock them down on the firewall as well. We talked about the phishing campaign. There's more work that we're in the process of fine tuning and moving forward with policy and procedure, and you're likely to see some of that come forward as part of the BOE project as well. Disaster recovery, just expanding the ability for us to do that. We're in a pretty good place, but we want to be in better place. And then managing incident responses a little bit more specifically under, the BOE or project that we've got going on now. So we've got an online form, but we're going to be expanding that to include general stuff as well.
Wow, you guys have one or two things going on there.
Yeah, it's just, we're trying to keep this short, so.
Questions about the security aspect or anything else? Other questions? All right, well, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to tell us all this. I mean, I knew you were busy, but this is quite an impressive list. So thank you for doing it all.
Yeah, anytime we can share information, we're happy to come back. So just let us know, please.
Yeah, great. Well, I know, definitely in terms of Board of Elections, people have,
Right.
more concerns about that this time of year. So
Right.
That'd be great. Thank you guys so much.
Okay.
All right, Lisa's here to talk to us about policies. I guess maybe we'll go ahead and move that and then we can talk about it. So Rich moves it. Second, Dan seconds. And this is resolution to update administrative policy, policy 4-2, overtime and compensatory time, policy 4-3, employee time and attendance, and policy 3-13, rest and meal periods. So go ahead, Lisa. Thanks for being here.
Oh, sure, my pleasure. So I'll start with the first one, the overtime and compensatory time. And I guess all three of them are somewhat similar and linked, and that they needed review and updating. They are all quite technical. There's a lot to them, and each of them are tied not only to Fair Labor Standards rules, but Department of Labor rules and our 4 collective bargaining agreements. So it was important to try to nail down the details and the policy and procedure as much as we could, in as much as there was commonality for the workforce, but not to repeat what is specific to collective bargaining agreements. So, you can see in this one, overtime and comp time policy, we really outlined and updated the definitions, the policy, the procedure. We added an appendix to, because departments can, or employees can elect to accept comp time off in lieu of overtime pay with the proper documentation. So we added that form for employees to share with their supervisors, departments, and a revocation of that as well. So without going into any further detail, I'll just respond to questions if you have them.
Yeah, questions or comments or edits, concerns? Henry?
Yes, Lisa, I don't know. Well, in the on the overtime and compensatory time off, under the reference section, you have agreement between Tompkins County collective bargaining units and fair labor standards. And on page 20, for employee time, you have agreements between the county of Tompkins collective bargaining units, U.S. Department of Labor, and
Henry, you're kind of freezing. I don't know if you can hear us.
Lisa, did you hear me?
No, you kind of froze. Are you there?
Okay.
Now I can.
Yes, I'm there now.
Okay, go ahead. Try again.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. In the reference section on overtime, talks about agreement between Tompkins County collective bargaining units and fair labor standards. And yet on the over employee time, you have it's a longer reference section. You include the Department of Labor and New York State labor laws. Should those match, or are they specific?
I think they were specific. The time and attendance incorporated also the rest and meal periods, and those, both of which are covered under the Department of Labor. So I'm not sure that we needed to reference the Department of Labor in the overtime and comp time. That's more FLSA.
Okay, thanks.
Rich, did you have a question or?
Yeah, I just couldn't remember if you'd said this, Lisa. This went through legal review, I assume.
Yes, Jonathan reviewed it. It went through the organization, et cetera. And it actually took a few months of review. We went over it again with Jason and the collective bargaining agreements.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we ready to vote then? Let's see, Dan?
Yes.
Rich?
And Amanda, are you voting on a resolution, or did you want to review the other policies?
Sorry, I guess I thought we kind of were going over all of them, but maybe there was other.
She did.
Yeah, because we moved the resolution.
Right.
Was there more to say, Lisa, on other parts of it?
For the second policy, I can just briefly say the employee time and attendance now incorporates the rest and meal periods, which was a one-page kind of one paragraph policy that made sense to incorporate into this one. And again, same in terms of having to find commonality among the collective bargaining agreements or refer to them specifically.
Okay, great. So any other questions about any of these? All right, so we're voting on the resolution, which includes all of it. And we'll try Dan again.
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
All right, and I'm yes. So that's unanimous. Great, thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
I should say, for the next item for Jonathan, he and I were just in the HR interviews all morning, and he asked me to, if I wouldn't mind covering some information about the next item. So if you're ready.
Okay, great.
send
Yeah,
your-
yeah, that's great. I talked to him briefly yesterday, and whatever information you have, that's great. So let's go ahead and move the next resolution, which is determining that 1400 to 1404 Teganic Boulevard in the town of Ulysses is no longer needed for public use. Can I have somebody move that? Henry, Rich seconds, thank you. And you can go ahead, Lisa, tell us what you know.
Okay, there are a few different updates and a couple of edits. So he wanted me to request that in the title of both resolutions to, if we could amend it to say, determining that a portion of this address, and then in the second one, authorizing the county administrator to sell a portion of the land, because it's not the entirety of the land. So that's one item that he asked that we take into consideration. But
yeah.
So the background information is that the county owns multiple properties along state roads that we acquired on behalf of the state back in the 20s and 30s. And so oftentimes the county's not aware that we own these properties and they're no longer now needed for public use. So there is the owner of this property is unable to sell the property because there's a cloud on the title. Jonathan checked with Jay and with the highway department, and all is in order, and we need to sell it to her for the appraised value. However, this is the new information, Amanda. As we were in the meeting this morning, Jonathan received an additional, he just received language, an email from the Department of Transportation that we need to incorporate certain language in the resolution because New York State requires a copy of the approved resolution to bring this forward. He is really interested. He doesn't think that additional language is going to be controversial at all, but he just hasn't had the time to incorporate it because we just got it. But he would like, if possible, if everyone's on board with approving this, to move it forward because the landowner is very much interested in trying to sell the property, and he can edit the resolution prior to it going to the full legislature.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Do folks have questions? Kathy?
Lisa, is it a change to both resolutions, or is it a change that he's recommending to the resolution declaring that the property is no longer needed for public use?
I believe it's both.
Because we're required to publish a legal notice prior to the legislature adopting. So we'll need that language soon for that legal notice.
Sure. And I think he has it now. It's just,
Okay.
He just received it an hour ago. So I don't think it would take long to incorporate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and at the beginning, Lisa, you added the part about a portion of the property. Did you get that, Kathy? And do folks understand that?
Yes, I got that.
Dan?
Well, that might be related to my question. What does it mean that we own the property, but she can't sell it because how can she sell it if we own it?
She can't. That's just it. So that's why
But,
we have to sell it back to her. That
okay,
that portion.
so on the tax map, are there two parcels, one owned by the county, one owned by her?
I believe so.
So what is stopping her from selling the property? I'm not trying to understand.
It's part of her title that the county has claim to a portion of her property. And so I believe that it's just a matter of making this transaction happen to clear her title.
It's probably like it's a portion that she uses. It's like part of her yard or her driveway or something. I don't know. But so it's in practice, it's her property. But my guess is that on the tax map, yeah, it shows something else. And if she wants to sell the property, that part needs to go with it. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong.
That's how
So part of the reason I'm asking, partly because I don't understand, but also, I mean, if she's been using the property, let's say for driveways, for instance, you just said all these years, but not paying taxes on it, or who's been paying taxes on it?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. So it would help me. I don't understand how well, I guess two people can't own the same parcel. So that's what I'm trying to understand. And then my other request is, can we get a map attached to this when we next see it? So we know where we're looking.
Sure.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? So, okay, so we'll go ahead with this before Kathy, go ahead.
I just want to add that these two resolutions will be coming to the legislature on October 6th, not at the next legislature meeting, to allow that legal notice to be published.
Okay, so there's time to get the language and get that to Kathy before that meeting.
Yes.
Okay, great. Henry?
Kathy, can we pass this and then add language to the legal notice? I mean, don't we have to pass what is going to be in the legal notice?
Yes, that's why I need that language before I publish the legal notice from Jonathan.
Right, but if we pass this resolution, it won't include that language.
Well, I think the understanding is that language would be included in that resolution once we receive it. That's part of the motion.
Yeah, I think you're right, Henry. Like right now, we're not seeing that language. So if you feel like you need to see that language, then you can vote no on it. But it would still come, that language would still come before us after it's in the legal notice, but at the legislature.
Right, okay.
All right. Other questions? And we're going to get a map for the next time. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and vote. So this is saying it's no longer needed for public use. Dan?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Henry?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's 4-1. All right, and then thank you. What's that?
I'll convey the message to Jonathan.
Okay, thank you. And then the next resolution is related, authorizing the county administrator to sell the land at 1400 to 1404 Teganic Boulevard in the town of Ulysses. Can someone move that? Dan?
I can move that.
All right, Mike moves, Dan seconds. Thank you. And so this is related. Do people have questions about this? All right, let's go ahead and vote then. Dan,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Henry,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'm yes. So that is 4-1. All right, thank you, Lisa.
Good thing.
All right, great. So we have a half an hour. I think before we get into the rules, we don't have too many of our staff people here, but I might ask Drew if he's there to give his report first for finance, and then we can get into the rules. If you're available.
Yes, I am available. Thank you very much, because we do have one item to get into. We've talked about this internally some, and Jason asked to share it with this group as well. You may have heard that there's a tax holiday that President Trump has put out, and the IRS and Treasury has recently, last Friday, put out further information on it. It was only a couple pages. We've been following this, Rick and I have, for since it came out last month, and there's been a lot of email on the NISAC Treasurers Group email exchange about them. Most counties are not implementing it. What it basically is, currently the president has given an order to not withhold FICA from employees, which would put, for many employees, anywhere $7,500 extra in their paycheck. But it's only a tax deferral. We would then have to withhold it beginning in January. So they would see not only the amount come out for their earnings, but also the amount they did not pay in would also be withheld. There's a lot of questions around it. As I mentioned, most counties and there's about 20 that have provided feedback, 25 counties. It doesn't seem this is really in the best interest of workers. The National Chamber of Commerce has sent requests to the White House and to the Treasury requesting for clarifications on this. So we'll definitely stay in touch with it, but at this point, we're not planning on moving forward to it. And I wasn't sure if this committee would like to discuss that at all, or if folks have seen it, have any questions.
I haven't seen it, but that's very interesting. Does anybody else have thoughts, or have you heard about this, Henry?
Yes, I've heard about it. Has any employee presented it to you as a request?
We've actually, to my knowledge, we've had 2 employees come forward. One has indicated they definitely want to opt out of it if the county is moving in that direction. And that was an employee from the DA's office. So.
Yeah, it seems like some kind of short-term benefit for more trouble down the line.
And not to get into a huge political discussion at all, but the comment was made and it is quoted in the public papers. So I feel safe sharing it, that Trump has definitely said that if I win the election in November, I will work to get this forgiven. So.
Gotcha.
Right, which kills Social Security.
Point taken. Point taken. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I would imagine that people wouldn't really want to go this direction and would want to opt out. Is it just, does the county just say we choose to opt out in general, or?
The Treasury really hasn't defined how to opt in or opt out.
Okay.
And we did talk over this with Lisa Holmes and Greg Potter earlier this week. And we haven't even had any advice from our payroll. As Greg mentioned, we use Infor for payroll, and no information came forth from them of even how to start doing this. So
It's very vague.
yes.
All right, well, thanks for telling us about that. It sounds like you're going the right direction, so.
So that's all I have for a report for finance. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That was a good one, though. Lisa, if you're still there, do you have anything else from administration to share with us?
Only say that we're now in the midst of the interviewing process for the HR commissioner, and which started this morning and goes through Tuesday. And as you're all aware, there's an uptick in activity at the EOC. So those are the two big things on the radar right now, and of course the budget.
Yeah, of course. You're all full of the budget. All right, great. All right, thank you. All right, so we have a bit of time to jump into the rules, which Dan and Rich and I have been having a grand old time working on the rules. So let's go ahead, and we do have a resolution to move to amend the rules of the legislature, rules 1 through 3. And can I have somebody move that? Dan? Second? Rich? And so as folks know, we've been kind of going over this numerous times. I think this is the 4th time that we've actually brought these particular rules to this committee. We had a serious go through together. We had another go through last month. We kind of confirmed some of the basic policy points, and now we have a resolution. And if we pass this, it will go to the full legislature for yet another discussion. So you have the updated version in your packet. Does anyone have any other comments or questions about what we are proposing the amendment be? Dan?
Yes, I have an amendment to propose.
Okay.
So here's the situation. So first of all, it's on packet page 33 under rule number 2, line 33, 32 and 33. What it says is that a positive vote by the majority of the whole is required to perform and exercise any power, period. And what we discovered since then, going through later rules, is that there's at least one more exception noted in the rules. And so what I'm going to propose is this, that at the end of that same sentence I just read, that a positive vote by the majority of the whole is required to perform and exercise any power, that we add, unless otherwise noted in the rules of the legislature. And that way it just covers anything that we haven't found yet and the one other exception that we have found, and it doesn't compromise the rest of that sentence and the rest of the rule.
All right, can you just say again where it goes into that sentence and
Yes.
which line?
So it's at the end of the sentence. The sentence currently says, a positive vote by the majority of the whole is required to perform and exercise any power. And I'm proposing that we add to the same sentence, unless otherwise noted in the rules of the legislature.
All right, well, let's see, that's an amendment. Do we have a second to make that amendment? Rich, thank you. Well, do we need to do an amendment or is it friendly?
You can do it as friendly if it's agreeable.
I think is it agreeable? Okay.
Well, it definitely is. Yes, of course.
Related to second.
Seconder.
But can you amend an amendment that's been amended?
That's Rule 6.
That's Rule 6. Okay. Okay, thank you for noting that. Are there questions about that from anybody? All right, and then the other thing that I had that we were going to add in, and you guys will have to help me remember exactly where, but we had this discussion about the potential gap between when a chair leaves if a chair leaves the legislature on December 31st, and because their term is up, and the organizational meeting is not happening until January 4th, who is going to be the chair during that time? So Rich had put out some language that I have up here, which we were going to add in, but I have to remember where we were going to add it in.
That's what I was looking for.
It was in Rule 1, number 1. I think it was at the end of the 3rd paragraph.
I think that's right.
Okay.
So it'd be the last sentence of that paragraph.
Okay, and so here is what we are proposing that it says at the end of that 3rd paragraph. In the event that the previous chair is no longer serving on the legislature between the year end and the organizational meeting, the succession list from the previous year shall be used to fill the role of chair until a new chair is elected.
And this is where I thought we could tweak it a little bit further. That it seems like we could use the vice chair, or we should consider that to fill that gap. But if both of them are unavailable, then we get the succession list. That's what I was trying to remember the other day.
Right. Comments?
Yes, hold on a sec, please.
You would be asking a legislator on that succession list to act as chair when you have a vice chair that could serve in that capacity. And then if you didn't have a chair or vice chair available, if both of those legislators' terms ended on 12/31 and you had no one, the two positions are vacant, then you would refer to that designation list of succession.
Right.
Does that?
Okay.
Correct.
But I don't think that statement read says that. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
So if the chair's term is up December 31st, they're off the legislature, doesn't automatically?
Call to the vice chair.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
That would be.
But you feeling we need to say that?
No.
No.
I think it already does.
So at that moment, they become the chair now.
The chair and vice chair shall serve until the subsequent organizational meeting. If the chair's term expires, the vice chair would act as chair.
Yes.
Okay.
But if both the chair and vice chair's terms expired, then you would
go to the list, which is spelled out in a later paragraph. That's the one. I think it is.
Paragraph.
Yeah. Rich?
In the 4th paragraph.
Yeah, this is what I was saying I thought we needed to do, which is we would amend the first line to say, in the event that the previous chair and vice chair are no longer serving on the legislature, between the year end and the organizational meeting, because that's when the succession list would come into use.
Okay, yeah, I think you're correct. So Kathy, should we have a sentence that says that? Does that make sense? Or is it just implied? Or
Well, I think it would be implied, but I don't think it would hurt having something in the rules. But that's the purpose of having that resolution, with the
yeah, right.
succession.
Rich?
Yeah, just for everybody else, the discussion that Dan and Amanda and I had was that we do this resolution every year with the succession list. And this seems to be the purpose of it, to cover these odd situations where you wouldn't have a chair and vice chair. So that's why this sentence we thought would go in here.
Okay, so I guess I would just ask you, the committee folks, do you want to amend this to add that sentence, or do you feel like it's clear enough?
I think we should add it.
I think we should add it too.
Okay. All right, then Kathy, do you know what to say?
Rich, you want to read it again?
In the event, yeah. To see it.
Yeah, in the event that the previous chair and vice chair are no longer serving on the legislature between the year end and the organizational meeting, the succession list from the previous year shall be used to fill the role of chair until a new chair is elected. I can send that to you, Kathy, if that would be helpful.
Yes, it would be. Thank you.
It could also happen, though, that the people or some of the people who are on the succession list are no longer serving as well. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
I would note that if that happened, none of us would be there to deal with the mess. Maybe Kathy.
That's funny. All right. Anything else on rules 1 to 3 before we vote to move it on?
Where would that statement go at the end of paragraph 3?
I think so, yeah. Right, Rich?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All right. This is very exciting. We've been working on this and we're actually going to vote on it. All right. Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's unanimous. All right. Thank you all. And thanks for continuing to work on this, Dan and Rich. So we have a couple of minutes. I do have to go at 3:30, but
Amanda?
Yeah.
I can't remember, is that this committee deals with all of the rules and then they go to the full legislature? Or are we sending these ahead and then we'll just piecemeal them in?
I think we're going to send these ahead and vote on them for the full legislature. I think that was my intention. And then as we get to the next rules, we'll do this process again. We'll go through it in the committee and then do a resolution in the committee. But I think what we had discussed last time was if there's something that we needed to change in the charter because we're changing it in here, we would wait to do that until we've gone through this whole process. So we could change the charter all at one time if there was several things. And what I remember Jonathan saying is that that's totally fine. Technically, these rules wouldn't be actually in effect until we do the charter. So if we never get around to changing the charter, then then those specific changes wouldn't be in effect. So we have to get through this.
Okay.
All right. So in your packet, you've gotten the marked up version, as well as I think there's a cleaner version that just has some policy questions. And I guess maybe we'll just kind of start and just take a couple minutes. I don't know, I hope Henry and Mike, you've had a chance to kind of look at it. There was lots of wording changes as with the previous stuff. And if, you know, I guess if you have questions or comments about some of the smaller wording stuff, then we can talk about that either separately or at the next meeting. But so Rule 4 is about the order of business of the general legislative meeting. And there was a couple of things that came up, and I'll just, if you're on packet page 43, the first one that came up was under roll call of members. And these are just some of the things that we had discussions about. So if anybody has other thoughts, you can chime in. So one of the things was, any member having answered the roll call at any meeting of the legislature shall not permanently leave such a meeting without notifying the chair publicly. And that's not really something that happens in practicality right now. People just leave, and sometimes, I mean, I think people do tell the chair that they're leaving, and then sometimes the chair will say, oh, Rich has to go, and so whatever. But so it's a question of, do we want to alter this policy, or do we want to enforce that people should be saying publicly, I have to leave at 3:30. So that's that. Does that make sense, the question?
Yes.
Henry?
Question makes sense. I just don't know, I just don't agree with the policy that people have to let chair know whether they're leaving permanently. I just don't see what, I mean, if it's for quorum purposes or whatever, the chair can figure that out. Also, if someone leaves, they may not know whether they're leaving permanently. But
okay, so you would suggest that we strike that. Is that what you're saying?
yes.
Kathy?
My only concern is that it's important for record keeping purposes that we know who's present and who's not. And when legislators are leaving a meeting, it is recorded in the minutes.
Right. So I get your point, Henry. I mean, this, like, what if we took out the word publicly? Like, what if a person leaving notifies the clerk or notifies the chair, but they don't have to state it publicly because maybe they don't know, maybe they, you know, or,
Sure,
that would suit you.
that would be better. That would be better.
Okay. Anne?
Thank you. I think as public officials that are responsible to our constituents, these are public meetings, and I think we should, as far as my opinion is, I think we should say out loud that we're leaving the meeting, and you can say, I'm gonna try and come back, or I'm leaving and I don't intend to come back. So I think that's something that we should do.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this? Okay, so I guess the way to move forward is to leave it as a question, and that there might be other opinions of legislators, and we can come back to that one. It can be one of those things that we have to discuss with the whole group. All right. One more little one here, and then I'm gonna adjourn us. On the next page, packet page 44, we have had a discussion with Jonathan and Kathy about the so-called special orders of the day. And it was the previous wording was fairly unclear, and we didn't know what it was, so we talked about it. And according to Jonathan, we can just take out the language noting special orders of the day. Basically, reordering of business is a special order. It's like the chair will move things around on any given meeting, and having that language in there just seemed redundant and unclear. So that this is a note to say that that has been taken out, and happy to answer other questions about that. Henry?
I don't have a question about that, but I have a question about the prior paragraph, which was included before, but the power of the chair with the appropriateness of the proclamation.
Sorry, where are you?
I'm on the prior paragraph. Proclamations take notice of an event on a person.
What packet page, please?
I think it's 43.
40.
Yeah, 43.
You're on the side. I meant which version you're on. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just the power to the chair of the legislature shall agree with the appropriateness of the proclamation. I'm just wondering whether that's,
right.
I mean, we're supposed to be 14 equals or whatever. And why does the chair? I mean, I know that the chair of the organization gets to decide what motions are cited and everything else, but I just think it's,
Yeah.
because.
Did we talk about that, Dan and Rich? I feel like we did, but.
Well, I mean, there is the next sentence that says the chair will consult with the full legislature to the extent possible. We weren't sure how else to do it, I guess.
Right. I think your concern is that the chair could like deny that we're going to have such and such proclamation or something.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Say you bring a controversial proclamation, and the chair doesn't want it to be read.
Okay.
I think that we should have, I mean, because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Later.
Okay. Other thoughts on that, Rich?
Later on, there's language in following rules on the ability of the legislature to appeal a decision of the chair and overrule it. And that would apply here, I believe. So that if a member brought a proclamation, the chair said, we're not going to read it. The member could take it to the full legislature on a motion to appeal a decision of the chair and get it read.
Yeah.
But they couldn't just read it on their own. I guess they could do it on privilege of the floor.
Right.
Where's the language that talks about the appeal of the decision of the chair?
I think it was in the one we were talking about recently, right?
Yes. Yes.
I don't think it's in this rule, Henry.
Okay.
Well, okay, it's definitely a point made. I think we should talk about it some more and clarify if people feel like that is something that should be taken out, or if it is addressed in a later rule.
Okay, you have to go.
Yeah, I gotta go. Sorry, folks.
Nope.
Definitely. Okay, so this will come up again next month, and we'll try to have more time to go through the questions. So definitely, Henry and Mike, if you have other questions like that we did not note, bring those forward for sure. And anything else? All right. Thank you all. I call this meeting adjourned. You're all awesome and wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy and Brittany.
Thank you.
Bye.